And that's what another thing I love about HairClub and the systems is that it's so easy to manage. The taking it on and off and dealing with that stuff, that's, that comes with time, just like anything. I wasn't able to do that myself. You learn it, but everything else, it's so simple, and HairClub takes care of you. The maintenance is simple. It's just like your own hair. You manage it, you style it. You don't have to worry about light shining through. You don't have to worry about losing it. It's always there.
Welcome to HairPod, the podcast where you get to hear real people talk about their hair journeys. I'm your host, Kevin Ralston, and each week I get to interview people from different walks of life whose lives have been touched by hair loss in some form or fashion. Many of our guests have experienced hair loss themselves and found a way to get their confidence and their hair back. This week we're welcoming friend of the pod, Dan Medeiros, back to the show. He's come on the HairPod before to talk about the vicious cycle of his anxiety and his hair loss when he was younger and how he found a way to get his hair back. These days, Dan spends a lot of time in the public eye. He's a performer, actor, model, and professional rock star. But in what little free time he has, he cosplays a variety of characters at Comic Cons. And for anyone who doesn't know what cosplay is, it's not too different from dressing up as your favorite TV or video game character on Halloween. Cosplayers can have incredibly intricate costumes that are totally custom made from head to toe. For today's episode, we're going to focus on how Dan styles the wigs he uses for his costumes and how his costume wigs affect his hair system. Now tell me about this, because I am a novice when it comes to wigs. To me, I've always just thought when you get a wig, the way the wig looks is what you're going to get. But you can actually get wigs and you can style them yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, to an extent, some of them are a lot harder than others. Because, a lot of the wigs, they're not real hair. So you have to really work with them and kind of force them into learning the direction you want it to go. So for this past weekend, we went to GalaxyCon, which is part of Animate Iowa. So it's like half anime Comic-Con and then horror movie Comic-Con thing. So I had to wear a wig for Nandor from the show What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if you watch that show.
Okay, that's cool. So
yeah,
I've heard of it.
My wife and I did Nandor and Naja, the full-blown makeup, accents, everything. It was wonderful. So we go all out, and the wig, it was something I just got off Amazon, but it was like the length I was looking for. It was close enough to the texture and cheap enough. So just kind of attaching it to like one of those foam heads, and then just really going to it with the brush. If you have to pin things back to kind of get it again to take that shape, so you can really mold them and do what you want with them. I'm no hairstylist expert. I've got friends who are hairstylists and do cosplay and stuff like that. So they're really good at working with wigs. Yeah. But there's so much you can do with it. And it's kind of funny, just managing my own hair, and then I'm wearing a wig on top of that. So it can be a lot of hot under there, but it's worth it when the costume comes together.
So tell me, for somebody that might be looking for a wig for either cosplay, for one of the Comic Cons, or just even for Halloween, what are you looking to order? Where would you go to order it? Are there materials that the hair is made out of, the wigs are made out of, that you might want to look for? And then can you apply heat to any of these wigs? How does this work from your experience? What have you seen done?
Yeah. And most of them you'll get aren't going to be real hair. They're artificial. And you can spend really good money, and you can even get ones that are really close to human hair. I know a lot of them use whether it's horse hair or whatever I've seen, but I tend to stick with what you can get in a lot of the costume stores, but you can get the stuff off Amazon, as said. And no, you do not want to apply heat to them like normal hair, because they will melt. The hair will fuse together, and it will look awful. So you have to be kind of careful on how you style it. So you have to do it. You got to do it dry, essentially. And then it's just forcing it into place. If you have to use pins, clips, whatever it takes, that's how you get it to stay. And then you can throw in, if you throw in good enough, strong enough hairspray and you've got it in that position, it can kind of lock it in. There's so many different little hacks you can find. I do kind of what everyone else does. I just go on YouTube and see what other people do and then take the best tips and which ones work.
Now, if I'm going for, let's say I want to put together a good costume. There's a costume contest. There's some money in it. It's pretty decent. What am I looking for to spend to get that kind of wig that is going to make a costume look good?
Oh, you're probably you'll want to go with the more realistic ones. So, I mean, and they range anywhere between $30 up to, $150, $200. Oh, wow. You can get ones that are even more expensive than that. And if you want really authentic, real looking ones, you're going to spend a lot of money on them. So for the most part, I try to do characters that I can use with just the hair I've got going. If I have to customize it, that's the nice thing with HairClub. I'm able to customize my hairs. So if I need something that's longer or shorter, I can just switch out. So I can switch to a shorter if I need to. During the colder months, I like to have it longer. During the warmer months, I really like to have this buzz down and keep this shorter, just so especially performing, I don't like having hair in my face, in my eyes, and it's that extra sweat. I'm doing a lot of outside performing and it's awful when I can't see while I'm trying to sing. I don't want to fall off the stage.
Well, that's never good. That's never good.
Yeah. No, so seeing where you're going is very important. So definitely think about that.
One of the cool things about Dan is that he doesn't just use synthetic wigs for his costumes. He finds ways to incorporate his own hair system into his looks as well. As Dan mentioned, cosplay wigs can be made from a lot of different types of materials. And the more realistic they look, the more they cost. Most people aren't going to buy a real human hair wig for a costume because they're just too expensive, but they deliver the most realistic look. So Dan uses his hair system when he can. Even has a couple of different systems that allow him to create costumes with slightly varying hair lengths. Now, if you're a first-time listener or you haven't heard of a hair system before, systems like Dan's are made from human hair and adhere to the scalp so they won't move around. Dan gets his hair system from HairClub, where he talks to his stylist about his unique situation, and then they tailor his program to fit his needs.
It really depends on your plan and how often you come in. And I mean, the HairClub, the centers are always fantastic at working with you on, what you need. So while I'm not performing or needing to be, dress up as Superman or whatever I'm doing that day, whoever I need to be that day, I do like to have my hair like this on my own. But when I switch to Superman, I like to go shorter. So I go in weekly for appointments. My system's usually every month and a bit, but that's just what my plan's on. So I always keep one, like a backup at home. If I'm not wearing shorter hair, I'm wearing longer hair, but I like to be able to go back and forth. So, and I'm really good at doing stuff at home too. So if I need to on the fly, either just myself or my wife and myself, we're really good at taking off and reapplying and doing all the custom work. And I learned a lot during 2020 when we couldn't go anywhere.
Oh, right.
So I had to do a lot of DIY, a lot of learning to do things from home. I didn't have just the ability to just go to the center and have my stylist help me. It was, all right, let's figure this out and never have to stress about this again. So
now, do you almost have a seasonal schedule for your hair systems? It sounds like you have this time of the year, I have it long. This time of year, we're going short because of Superman.
Gosh. Yeah. So like I'm also a singer in a band and I need to have my goatee, but I like to have my beard. But when I do Superman, I have to shave my beard. Okay. So literally my hair and my facial hair have to change throughout the year based on what I'm doing. Or if I'm I'm acting or doing a modeling gig, well, we don't want a beard for this. We want longer hair. We want shorter hair. And I feel like my entire life is dictated on my hair and my hair on the head and the face regions.
Right.
It's exhausting, but it's fun. And I like that I can do that. That's the amazing thing. I'm not stuck with what little I had.
Yeah.
So for every single day, I'm so grateful that I am able to do this. I'm able to look the way I'm supposed to look. I'm able to look in the mirror. I'm able to talk to you right now, see myself in the corner of my screen and go, that's how I'm supposed to look. So
I'm hearing somebody who is a musician, an actor, into cosplay, always doing dress up. And let's just say I'm one of these people that's not my world. And to me, I'm very busy. I don't have a lot of time. Everything you're talking about sounds like a time suck. And it sounds like it's very involved. And now I'm not so sure that this is for me. Tell me a little bit about your hair systems and how much time it takes. And if you're a business professional and you have kids and a busy lifestyle, are you telling them that you're just not going to have time for a hair system? What is the maintenance like on this?
Oh gosh, it's the complete opposite. And that's another thing I love about HairClub and the systems is that it's so easy to manage. And it may, the taking it on and off and dealing with that stuff, that's, that comes with time, just like anything. I wasn't able to do that myself. You learn it, but everything else, it's so simple, and HairClub takes care of you. The maintenance is simple. It's just like your own hair. You manage it, you style it. You don't have to worry about light shining through. You don't have to worry about losing it. It's always there. And I don't have time for a lot of maintenance because I am on the go so much. I need to be able to depend on waking up and going, all right, my hair looks great because I got to go to work right now. And then after I get home from work, I got to go do this and I got to go do that. I don't have time to stress over my hair, stress over how I look, to look in the mirror and go, oh, I don't know if I can go out there today because I don't look right. I don't have that problem and I don't have time for that problem. So low maintenance and just ease is my favorite thing. And that's what I love about HairClub. And if you have any questions, any concerns, they will get you in. They will work with you and they will make sure that it's as stress-free as possible. And I need that. I've got enough stress and anxiety in my life. So the HairClub, by knowing that they're always there to back me up, it's huge, huge.
I think this is the bottom line for all of our guests who have found a hair solution. They look in the mirror and they see themselves the way they feel they're supposed to look. I think it's easy to underestimate the impact of feeling awkward when you catch a glimpse of yourself in a store window or see a picture of yourself from a family gathering. A lot of people are going to brush off these little moments of discomfort rather than listen to their gut feeling that it's time to take action. And it's only when they finally take that step that they realize what they've been missing out on all along. Just like Dan, I'm a busy person. Got a crazy job, a family, and I'm always on the go. I don't have time to fuss with my hair to try to get it to look the way I want. Knowing I'm going to be confident when I get up every single morning and face the world, it makes all the difference. Dan's a busy guy too. It's not uncommon for him to go from a Comic-Con to another event. So I asked him if he ever wears his hair system underneath his wig, just for the sake of convenience, and if that ever leads to any issues.
I have yet to run into any issue other than it being a little hot under there, but no, I love it. I don't mind it. And honestly, sometimes if I don't have my hair on, I'll just adhere the actual wig itself on top of, just like I would any other hair.
There you go.
I've done that too, but when I need to take it off and actually do something afterwards, it's much easier to just take off the wig and be like, all right, good to go.
Yep.
So then that's what I did this weekend. And it was not a problem at all. Actually, what I did is, because I have the longer hair, I actually just used clips and I clipped it back. So it was kind of slicked back, clipped down. And then I was able to just take the wig, place it over top, and easy peasy. I didn't even have to think about it. And as you said, with like wearing my hair, I forget that I'm actually wearing hair because again, it's like a second skin, and it's the hair is, you just forget that you are. So I'm never worrying about, the excessive heat from wearing two things. I don't feel that. If anything, I just feel it a little bit extra weight because I'm wearing an extra hair on top of my head.
Now, to paint a more vivid picture for people that are trying to understand what it's like, because you talk about you go to shorter Superman type hair, and then you've got, hair that you're going to be wearing that's a little bit longer. What does that look like? And are you stuck in certain styles? Do you have to pick out a style of longer hair, or is the hair long and then you pick the style and your hairdresser then puts it into that style?
Yeah, all of my hairs, they come in, they're usually roughly around 6 to 7 inches. usually around there in length. And then I can just dictate where I'm going from there. So as I said, during the colder months and I want it longer, I'm just like, all right, start off, well, maybe cut it down to about 6 inches or 5 inches and then kind of work away from there. And then every time I come in, I'm like, all right, let's just clean up the ends a bit more, make it a bit shorter. And then when it comes down, I'm like, oh, I got to do Superman in this weekend. So actually, let's cut it down even shorter and I'll get the Superman cut and then I'll hang with that for a while. But I do like to keep backups at home. So if I have a shorter one, then what I'll do is when I go in for that appointment and I'm, putting it back on again, I bring my shorter one and I have them put that on instead.
The craziest thing about this isn't that Dan has this sort of magic wand he can wave and change how his hair looks. It's how completely natural his hair system looks. When I interview our guests, I get to see them and their hair. Dan showed me his system close up, and I could not even tell where it ended and his natural hair began. It's a perfect match with his natural hair, and it's so breathable that he sometimes forgets he's even wearing it. It made me curious how his system holds up when he's performing on stage, and if it's the last thing that's on his mind.
It's 100%. I never even think about it.
Wow.
And trust me, I'm up there like running, jumping around. I'm a lead singer, guys, so I'm hopping up on stage. I'm sweating like crazy, and not once. I had professional photographers taking photos, so I see all the photos after the show, and some really cool ones where my hair is quite literally doing a sweaty, wet like flip, and you can see the beads of sweat coming off of it, and
people understand you have sweat through your system, so it breathes enough that the sweat has left your own scalp. It's gone through the fibers that they have there. It's now into the hair, and that hair in your system is drenched with your own sweat. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible. Like, things have changed with the technology so much since even when I first started back in 2010. I was wearing an old technology, which was more of a lace. And then we used the strips of tape and stuff like that. Now it's like this, as I said, it's so thin. It's like the second skin, but it's so durable. And it just adheres completely to your head. And then you just forget it's there. Yeah.
Because I would imagine if you had an old school toupee, what would happen if you're on stage?
Oh, you've seen them in the movies and shows where it just goes flying, lands on somebody's like soup or something.
Right, it does. That's always the joke. But you would have a plastic film that the baby doll hair would be woven into, not even real human hair. And then you would be sweating, not through it. So the side of your hair would be wet, and then the top part would be dry because the sweat can't permeate through what they used to make those toupees out of. And it's a different feel now.
Yeah, well, and that's why you can, like you see in the commercials and the infomercials, like you're coming out of the pool, you're swimming. I love that too. I can go swimming and I don't have to worry about any of that. I went, the first time I went on an all-inclusive vacation to Cancun, I was like, okay, all right, I'm in a whole other country. I've got, I hope this is going to be all right. And honestly, it was fine. I was there for a week. I'm in the sun and the pool all day, every single day. And in the heat, and it wasn't a single issue. Did my own little touch-ups as I needed, but when I went out for dinner and disco dancing afterwards, it was a good time.
Yeah, I will tell people too. I always, when I had a full head of hair, even as a kid, I had thin, fine hair that was impossible to style. And now that I have a hair system, I actually have better hair now with the system than if I had all. If I could choose, would you want to go back and have all your original hair or have the system? My hair looks better with the hair system than it did when I had my own natural hair. So
exactly, and that's what you can do. You can have that. You don't have to, you don't have to be that. You can actually look the way you should be, the way you want to be.
I want to thank Dan for coming on the show once again. He's always got great advice for everyone who is looking to learn about hair loss and how they can come back from it. Whether you're getting ready to style your first costume wig or you're wondering how you can find a hair solution that matches your lifestyle, we got you covered here on the HairPod. Don't forget to check out our show notes if you want to hear more from Dan about his hair loss journey. And for more inspirational stories and words of wisdom from people who have actually been through hair loss, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening to another episode of HairPod. Check us out at HairClub on Instagram or search HairPod on Facebook to continue the conversation. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this episode, we would love it if you would share with them. If you're enjoying the show, consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. We also have a website. Check it out by going to podcast.hairclub.com. We're here to build people up and share real stories so people experiencing hair loss feel a little bit less alone. And when you share, review, and subscribe, it helps us do just that. So thank you. Until next time.